it through the ropes made you feel like you were almost there sitting in that first row. It created a very visceral, low budget, grainy type vibe. And I like that a lot because you watch a lot of these fights now and they rarely look like this. And they did this for budget to not show the audience and to look up towards the ceiling. But it still works really well for me.
I absolutely agree with you. It makes you feel like you're actually there as opposed to watching a movie. And you feel more of you actually feel the hits almost and the grunting and you can hear it. And the soundtrack isn't as crystal clear as it is in most movies, which I believe, in my opinion, adds more to it, to the viewer's experience of the film.
Oh, and man, when that score starts kicking in the 14th or 15th round.
Yeah.
You just want to pick somebody up and run around the house with them. No, it starts in the 7th, does it? Because that's when the montages start.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right.
And then you just want to, Chris, I would just pick you up and run around the house. It's a very effective scene. And it bothers me when people say that Rocky is overrated or it's the best bad movie ever. Because they're looking at it. People are looking at, there's a bunch of just self-important articles out there.
No.
But this movie, no, there is. Or you disagree? Are you telling me no or them no?
No, I'm telling them no. This is one of the greatest films of all time. Arguably one of the best films ever because it has everything that you would want in a film. And so many films from this movie have gone on to tell more underdog stories, not just boxing films, but also sport related ones.
I absolutely. And I think what these people are missing is that it's an underdog. I mean, it's a crowd pleaser. So if you look at a movie and say it's a good, bad movie, but it's an absolute crowd pleaser that made boatloads of money and won Academy Awards, that's not a bad film. That's a very good film that wanted to please audiences with its earnestness. Maybe it wasn't trying to attract critics, but I think Sylvester Stallone had his heart on his sleeve, and this is the best he's been.
Yes, I agree. I love how it was all shot. A lot of it was shot guerrilla style, which is the reason why a lot of the scenes take place at night or in the very early day, because Sylvester Stallone said you would rarely see police patrolling in the early morning. So that's why there's so many shots of, Rocky in the early morning.
Wow.
And also, that's true. And also the scene where he's running through the market while he's training, you can see the extras like kind of tilting their heads around going like, what the hell is that? Because you got to imagine there's Sylvester Stallone who's running behind a van with the camera strapped to it. And they're like, run, run, run. And you just, so then you have all the people in the marketplace being like, what the hell is that? So then there's a scene where a guy actually throws an orange, I believe it's an orange or an apple, at Stallone as he's running. That was real because the guy was like, hey, dude.
Yeah, and I think that's what adds to the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
And also with the fight scene, I liked how he had blood on his shorts. I also liked how they weren't afraid to have Rocky clinching with Apollo. Rocky got in there and started hugging.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that he just couldn't do anymore. So he's like, the heck with it, and then just grabs him.
Yeah.
I think it was I counted 4 times that they show on screen that he grabs him.
I mean, you got to get that break. I mean, if you can get in on Apollo, you don't want to get back out because he'll eat you up with his jab. And I also thought it was interesting in this, Rocky moves towards Apollo's power hand, which works sometimes, but for the most part, that's not an intelligent decision. I mean, you obviously can break the rules, but it kind of showed how Rocky wasn't a tactician either. So, I mean, he is actively, when he gets floored, he's moving towards Apollo's power hand. So when you circle, I don't know, I don't want to explain if you know boxing, but I just thought that was interesting how they didn't go totally technically polished, and Rocky still, he's not a tactician. And I think they did a good job showing that and not just telling you that with his actions.
Yeah, that he's not a professional boxer at all. He's just kind of going with what he believes to be correct. And if we watch from the beginning fight with Spider Rico, it's like a street fight. And you see that in the ending too. The very last few hits that Rocky does to Apollo Creed, he does the same thing to Spider Rico. He literally just throws him up against the ropes and just starts beating him in the face. I mean, that's literally what he does.
Yeah.
He just starts pummeling him in the face, and then it's like ding, 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 and then they have to rip the guys apart. And then you find out that Apollo is the winner.
And he is. So after going through all these judges who scored it round for round, from what they saw, it all goes the same way as Apollo. So this was the right call. Rocky wasn't robbed, but he stayed in there for those 15 rounds, and that's all he wanted.
Yeah, I did as much as I could a count of the punches that were thrown on screen, and this is no way is this a real like 100% factual thing, but I tried to count as many as I could, and Apollo threw 98 punches and Rocky 49.
Wow. Yeah, it looks
So
about
it
that.
was. I mean, he definitely got a whooping. The first throw that Rocky hits Apollo with is the uppercut, and that's what knocks down Apollo.
Yeah, I think it might have been smart too because Apollo lands 14 jabs in a row and then he gets put on the ground. So I wonder, I'm going to use my head to lull him into a false sense of security.
What I thought was funny was that the first time I watched this, I noticed that Apollo actually bops Rocky on the nose whenever Rocky goes to hug Apollo, and he's like, then the referee has to separate them, and he's like, "Get out of my way, chump!" And he like bops him on the nose. It's watch it again. He does that, and he just like does like like a taunting. And it's very raw and like realistic because it's not like you don't feel like you're watching two actors. You feel like you're watching a real boxing match because that would be like a taunt, be like he's treating him like a child, like dude.
And I love how Rocky is kind of being a turd. So he's running up to Apollo and well, I'm not calling it hugging. He's clinching with him. And then Rocky's like, when they separate, Rocky's like, come on, fight me. I'm like, you were just clinching on Apollo.
I don't know. You should be taunting him there.
It's like, yeah, you poked me in the eye, right? And then you're like, you better not fight cheap. And I'm like, what?
What kind of shit is that?
Yeah, exactly. What's happening here?
It's like you sucker punch me, and it's like, ha, don't fight dirty. What
yeah.
like,
so Rocky was fighting dirty. I dig that about him. But no, I'm really glad you brought this one to me, man. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
I love this movie. It's been one of my childhood favorites. I grew up watching Rocky a million times. I had the poster of it. I was looking for the DVD this morning, and for some reason I couldn't find it. But I read that there was the injuries that were sustained in the movie, not to the actual actors, but to the characters. Apollo received busted ribs and internal bleeding, and Rocky received a broken nose and serious damage to the eye sockets.
And about 17 concussions. The doctor, it's the 70s, so the doctor has a big cigar in his mouth. Son,
you call that an injury?
You got 17 concussion spots. Every one of them jads called a separate concussion.
Here's a beer. Now
pour some beer on your head. Not
have
the good
a cigarette
stuff.
And go home.
Don't pour good beer on your head. Cheap beer. Pour the cheap beer on your head and drink the good beer. Stay away from whiskey. Trust me.
Trust me. I used to be a surgeon. Now I'm just a regular.
Let me breathe this smoke in your face. Hey, I feel better.
My eyes don't cut anymore.
Oh, that cigar smoking, man. Yeah, I love the cutting scene. I mean, cut me. It's an iconic fight, and I'm glad you brought it up. And are we talking about Rocky 2 next?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do Rocky 2, then Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa, Creed, and then Creed 2.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I love them all. I love all those movies.
I just got to say something. Rocky Balboa, there's a scene in that film where he pulls down a chair from a tree to sit like at Adrian's grave. He just keeps a chair in a tree so he can sit down on it when he visits her. It's one of my favorite touches in movies. And as far as script writing, production design, thoughtfulness, that moment gives me goosebumps because Sylvester Stallone knows this character inside and out. I think he maybe lost him for a couple movies, but I love that scene. It explains the character oh so well.
I love that scene as well, and I've brought that up before to my friends and other folks as well, that it just really shows who he really is, that he would leave his chair there and he knows that he can come back to it. He can pull it down and sit there right to his wife. And I love how he talks to her when he talks to the gravestone. He talks to her like she doesn't know anything or she's not there. It's almost like he's speaking to her through a telephone and she's like lost somewhere. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful.
I guess, yeah, I mean, we'll get to it, but I just watch Rocky Balboa, guys and gals.
It's a very underrated, well, I don't know if it's underrated, but a lot of critics and fans didn't like Rocky Balboa, but I hands down loved it.
They're smoking crack.
They were in a fight with Apollo Creed. So
yeah, exactly. That's 17 concussions. All right, so this was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so for Mark Hoffmeyer, for Chris, cut me, Kelly, this is Final Fights. We'll see you next week.